Hi everyone, welcome to my interview series, A Voice for the Victims. Today I'll be featuring vegan athlete and animal rights activist, Josh Howell. Josh has made some amazing athletic accomplishments following a plant-based diet, and he's also the organizer of animal rights demonstrations in Auckland under the name of Make the Connection. Today we'll be covering a wide range of topics, first of all dealing with his achievement, lifestyle and diet, his vegan journey, his road to activism, and finally some personal questions that are proposed for him. I hope you enjoy the interview, and let's get straight into it. Hey Josh, thanks for joining me on this interview. So recently you ran 100 miles, so that's what, like 161 kilometers?
162 point something or other.
Ooh.
165.
But yeah, it took you about 24 hours to complete it, didn't it?
Yeah, I was hoping to sneak under the 24-hour barrier. I really was trying for it. Only my knee got real sore towards the end and I couldn't quite make it, but still very happy with the result.
As you do, running 24 hours. Honestly, like to the layperson, it seems next to impossible when I imagine being active for that long. I mean, obviously you did have some eating breaks and stuff like that to recover. But yeah, it's just a great achievement, man.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I fell twice. Other than that, I sat a couple of times and yeah, no other times where I actually sat down and took time just for that, I was just kept moving forward.
Yeah, that drive and motivation, eh? Yeah. That's awesome. So anyway, like to develop to the point where you can do this accomplishment, let's talk about how you've gotten there, especially in terms with your like diet and lifestyle. We'll talk about diet first. Like, how do you fuel the body to run for this kind of period and yeah, just do these extended marathons and stuff like that?
Nature's fast food.
Yeah.
Fruit is the number one thing for me. So I'll eat that for breakfast, for lunch, as a whole meal. And because it's the fastest to digest, it fuels you perfectly. It's very easy to digest, and it means that you can spend time exerting yourself, like doing an ultramarathon.
And with, like not just fruit as well. So like the other things you eat, like let's just go through like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What does that look like for you?
Today it's going to be watermelon, a half big watermelon, and then probably lunch will be the same.
Yeah.
And then dinner will be starch based. So typically kumara, squash, potato, pumpkin with steamed greens like broccoli, zucchini, mushroom, corn.
Yeah.
Nice and simple, no salt, no oil, simple whole foods.
Whole food, plant-based, yeah. Beautiful. And yeah, why do you avoid those things like salt and oil and sugar?
We wouldn't go to the ocean and drink salt water, would we? So why do we put it on our food? It's as simple as that. Oil is massively processed, super high in fat, offers very little nutritionally. You wouldn't find it in nature to eat, so again, why would you use it in your cooking?
Excellent. Yeah, so I saw like most of the participants in the Mila, I think all of them, they received like a ponamu at the end. I think like traditionally, it's usually given as gifts, to the best of my knowledge. But I think it's really cool that you were able to receive one after like, creating like a really good accomplishment. I think that holds like a lot of meaning and power behind it. I think that's awesome. You just want to show the camera?
There you go.
Just hold it up there. It's beautiful, man.
It's probably not the essential gifting thing, but yeah, I've got a story to tell about it and I'm very proud of it. It's something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we've learned about your diet and how that fuels you, but there's also the factor of lifestyle as well. So how do you control your like lifestyle factors also to be able to have like, the endurance and the energy to, bring about these accomplishments?
I'm not sure what it was that clicked in my head, but something changed where I really took my life into my own hands and started addressing that, whether it be alcohol, coffee, two of the things that I don't consume. No need for it, and because society tells us we should have these things doesn't mean that I want to keep doing it, and that's what I changed. I realized that it's my life to live, and you have to be strong, you have to be confident in the sense of standing up for yourself on these subjects, but to me it's so simple now. People do not doubt you when you're strong and confident, as am I, on these subjects, whether it be veganism, alcohol, poisoning your body. I don't do it.
Nice and wholesome, I like that. Yeah, so let's talk about the end of your race, right? You held a sign right as you were going down the finish line. And I think that was a really beautiful message. Just do you want to say what it was?
Yep.
The message on the sign?
I the message, I talked with the boys, people that I trust, about what was going to be on the sign. Some people said, hey, it might be a little too conflicting, but it was 100-mile ultra as a vegan. Why eat animals? A simple question posed to everybody and everybody that saw it. Not directed at anyone specifically, but a question we should all ask ourselves. If I can do that on Whole Foods, then why are we eating animals?
Yeah, that is one of the main concerns people have is like, people think it's not healthy to eat a whole food plant-based diet for some reason. Obviously, when our ancestors are the great apes, which they had a predominantly plant-based diet as well. I mean, and also our digestive system, it's adapted to consume animal products, but it's not evolved to do that at the same time. So a lot of those things actually make us sick, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah, especially with red meat being classed by the World Health Organization as a class 2 carcinogen, etc. Yeah.
All the information's out there. It's just we try and demonstrate, you do, I do, as much as we can to show that we can absolutely thrive. And on the subject of the sign, it was absolutely the plan.
Oh, so you had that plan the whole
yeah.
time? Oh, that's awesome. Was that a bit of the motivation going into it as well to really finish that race?
I had plenty of reasons to finish, but one was especially so to have the sign at the end waiting for me and hold it up for the world to see.
And you looked really happy at the end. I was watching your video of your progress through the race, and you just looked so happy. I was like, how is he so happy after he's run this much time? I mean, how used to it were you? I mean, you've obviously done some long distance stuff, but this must have been quite a first for you, isn't it?
For that distance, absolutely. Just want to credit Mum for being happy and that rubbing on to me, because I think, you can just suffer, be miserable and moody in an event like that, or you can be happy and go with it, because, no one wants to be someone around who's sad and moody.
Yeah, true that. Especially when it's that kind of race.
Yep.
And you also had your two friends with you as well?
Yep.
Cam and Shamiz,
who were two great friends.
Pacing you along
me.
the whole way?
Yep.
Awesome. And so they had like a bit of snacks for you to have along the way as well?
So they do have vegan food at the aid station. They had fruit, they had oranges, bananas, one other type of fruit. But the boys brought me rock melon. Oh, they also had watermelon, which was great. And dates and figs, that's all they brought me. So nice, simple Whole Foods. But plenty of non-vegan options, which I didn't even look at. That, is not going to help doing an ultra in any way. It's going to make life tougher. So why even bother consuming them?
Yeah, cool. I think it's really great that activists use their unique abilities and their talents to really bring forth the animal rights message in whatever way that is good for them. Because obviously not everyone can be on the streets talking about it or whatever, but I think it's important that we use our unique abilities to talk about, subjects for any matter, really.
Yep.
So for you, how does, being like a plant-based athlete tie into animal rights?
To show that we can thrive. I use any and every platform that I can to speak about this issue. To me, it was so clear. If we can be vegan and live healthfully, then there's every reason to speak up for the animals and to try and change as many minds on the subject as possible.
And I think it is a really good starting point, because honestly, I can't think of many vegans that I know who instantly make the change because of the ethical standpoint. Even for me, it was from a point where I was like, I do want to live a healthier lifestyle, and I do want to improve my nutrition. And after completing that, after being like, I can thrive on a plant-based diet, then I was really open to the ethical standpoint, because I've already come across the hurdle with the diet, which is the main thing. Obviously, it doesn't just encompass diet, but leather, animal testing, those kind of products. But I think that is one of the biggest hurdles that people have faced with. And I think, promoting that kind of lifestyle is quite integral to it, because we're taught from a very young age that, if you don't drink cow's milk or if you don't eat red meat, you're just going to die or something like that. But let's go on through your vegan journey. I love hearing this from all the vegans I meet. And I don't think I've really heard your one at the moment, actually. So what brought you to veganism? How did your journey start? I'm curious. I feel like it was like a thing of, trying to improve your athletic endurance or something. That's my guess. And just quickly, what was your impression of vegans beforehand?
my impression of vegans, I don't even know what they were. I knew what vegetarians were. I had 2 cousins. I used to be slightly mean to them, and I apologize to them for that now, being in the place that I am. That's unfortunate, but you can't change the past.
I must admit, as a chef before, I used to jump on the bandwagon as well. And yeah, it is something. It's just like with any other, culturally or socially indoctrinated behavior.
Yeah.
We just go with it because we want to, feel accepted. But it's a lot easier to understand when you're, on our side.
When you're the minority.
Yeah, when
it's
you're the
different.
minority.
When you're the one being picked on, it's not so nice.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, what opened you up to veganism in the first place?
Well, I have to say that you're wrong in your assumption that it was to do with athletic performance. It
Okay.
wasn't anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Prior to being vegan, I wasn't even really doing any exercise.
Wow. Okay.
I was actually not in the best place in my life. I was not really loving my job. It all kind of compiled at the same time, and I just got curious on the internet, watched a Facebook video. It was called "The 6-Minute Video Will Make You Speechless." It pretty much did.
Yeah.
It was all about factory farming. It was just people dressed in these suits, chopping up animal pieces in this chain, and it was horrible to watch. And
Wow.
I started to really change how I looked at it. I always considered myself an animal lover. Loved dogs, the dogs walking around here.
Yeah.
But then I realized that I was being a hypocrite by paying people to chop up animals, because I asked myself that question: would I kill an animal for food? And the answer is no. I wouldn't want to do it. It's not pleasant. It's not nice to watch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it, so I can't pay other people to do it. From there, you go down the rabbit hole, and you see more and more stuff. You start learning more and more stuff. The whole vegan idea came along. I was vegetarian for about 7 months, and then I finally started really... Dog.
She's alright.
Hey, go inside, eh? Go inside. Go inside. Come inside. Good girl. Hop inside. Good girl.
Yeah, she wants to play.
Sit. Good girl, mate. Good girl. Sorry about that.
That's alright. But yeah, so 7 months. So how long did the process actually take? I guess like starting from watching that video and being open to what veganism actually is. Yeah, how long did that process take for you to transition?
Yeah, it was about that 7 months, so it wasn't overnight. I wish it was overnight, looking back at it. I wish that I really took details of, when I did this and when I did that, when I stopped eating animal products and so forth. But I did actually write a thing to myself and said, stop eating cheese June, like the first week of June. So I don't know the specific date that I went vegan, but I now celebrate it on June 8th.
Oh, cool. And how many years ago was that?
This year will be 7 years vegan.
Wow. And you've, like you said, you didn't really used to be active. And now look at you, you've done 100 mile after 7 years of being vegan. I mean, most people think like, after a few years of being vegan, they're gonna, their health's gonna deteriorate and all these things, but yeah.
The opposite is true, that I'm absolutely thriving. Like, I still haven't even had breakfast today. It's almost 11 o'clock. I just ran 28 Ks at a 4-minute 30 pace. I feel great.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So when you became vegan, obviously, for me as well, you do become aware of what you purchase yourself, but also that reflects on your family as well. How did it affect your relationships and your family directly?
It was tough initially. There's definitely the kind of, when you initially go vegan, then you kind of go, to me it was like a quiet part, then an angry part, angry at the world, angry at everyone that's consuming these body parts of these innocent beings.
Yeah.
It's tough, and yeah, my family initially, I wouldn't say we're that open to it. Things have changed massively in a very great direction, but at the time, like, I still remember sitting at dinner with Dad and another family friend, and they were personally attacking me over the subject, And
Wow.
I'm never going to let that go. But that's all right, things have gotten better, so relationships were, like, tested, I'd say. But things have changed. And
It is something quite awkward to bring up because, obviously there's hardly anyone in the world who is born vegan. So being a part of the culture, really, it's quite hard to, come against it quite abruptly. How did you bring it up with your family in the first place? Do you just go through a line of questioning or give them a documentary or something?
Yeah, I tried the gentle approach of, I'm living this way, I'm thriving, this is the proof. Started getting blood tests and so forth, to prove as much as I could that I'm not going to die of protein deficiency, because it's a myth.
Yeah.
And yeah, just became more and more direct with it, There's, you can beat around the bush, or you can just approach the subject directly, and I feel strongly about talking about it directly with people because we need to have these important conversations.
Yeah, yeah. I think if we do want to create cultural change, it does need to happen, and especially having a consistent message, I think is really important because, yeah, I think what's really good with you is that at the same time you are promoting a healthy lifestyle, you don't shy away from talking about the real issue of veganism. I think that's really important that a lot of people in that same position as you, whether it be athletic ability or, just thriving on a plant-based diet, making good food, I think it is important that we do talk about those things. Yeah. Yeah, I remember one time we were at your house and we were chilling out, and then you actually put on a documentary of Joey Carbstrong's new documentary about the dairy industry. As a vegan, you don't pay for any of those horrible things to happen that do happen in the documentary, and it was really hard to watch at the same time. So why do you continue to watch those kind of things?
It just drives the message home to me. It's fuel to the fire to get off my butt and go and speak up for the animals in any way that I can.
Yeah.
Seeing what they suffer or how they suffer, it's horrible. But yeah, I do watch these things reasonably often just for the absolute desire to try and do as much as I can for them. I think I owe it to them.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like it is hard for some people, even vegans, to watch it at the same time. But I felt that same thing where I cried. I cried after it on the way to work. It was really disheartening. But after that, coming out of that sorrow, it really did give me a drive as well. And I think that's really important that we remember why we're vegan. Because obviously you've seen examples of other people, social media influencers and just random people who, stop being vegan. But it's not as simple as stopping a diet, is it?
No.
Yeah.
Standing outside the slaughterhouse, seeing the little animals being trucked into their deaths, you need to come and stand at the side of the road at the slaughterhouse and see it. And what excuse do people have to keep paying for that? Like, none of these people come and stand at this, come and witness the animals being
Yeah.
taken to their death. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. You cannot go back from that.
And do you have any advice for like actual vegans who, because obviously this is a very massive problem. It happens on such a wide scale, and I'd say we're very early in the movement. I feel like there's some people who feel like, this is a problem that they just can't solve. What is your advice to those kind of people?
Yeah, I've seen it firsthand. People come and go through activism, and it's sad. But at the same time, I respect that it's tough. But individual change is where it starts. We have to start there, and the ripple effect is awesome. It's massive. Like, things have changed so much so, and you have to look at it like that. It's a marathon, unfortunately. I wish that it was an overnight thing, but it's not. So we have to just do what we can, when we can, how we can.
That's awesome. So yeah, so after taking steps to, get animals off your plate and adopting a vegan diet, what led you and what gave you inspiration to actually speak up for the animals in a public space?
To me, it's just so clear that if we can thrive as vegans, then I have to try and demonstrate and promote this in any way, because yes, animals die by the billion unnecessarily for taste, but there's so many other world issues that can be helped or completely fixed by people changing the way they eat.
Yeah, yeah. And it is important to do that, but it is hard because we have all these problems and we do have a solution, especially with things like climate change, antibiotic resistant diseases. What else have we got? World hunger. A lot of these things can be solved by a plant-based diet, and the evidence is there, but people still haven't changed. I mean, sometimes you get the comment about people saying like, oh, you care more about animals than you care about humans. But if we really cared about humans, then we would take those steps, solve climate change because that's in our best interest. End world hunger with everyone on a plant-based diet because obviously that's in our best interest.
I felt it necessary that if we can thrive as a vegan, then there's no reason why I can't speak up for it. To me, it was so clear that once I had addressed any issue that I had about being vegan, after that it was simple. I needed to speak up for the animals. I needed to try and change as many minds because so many things can benefit from doing so.
And I think it really does bring it to light when you've watched those documentaries and you watch the animals suffering, that you really want to do something about it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, talking to people on the street is one of the ones that does feel good when you're out there, because you're talking right to the causes of the problem, because this is a consumer-based issue, isn't it? Yeah.
And they've seen it. They've seen us showing what's happening on the screen, and they've felt it necessary to stop and take it in. So from there, they're obviously slightly interested enough to want to have a conversation about it.
And yeah, from what I heard, most people are quite nervous when it comes to doing that kind of activism. And obviously it's not the only form of activism you can do. Like with your example, how you use your unique talents and abilities to bring forth an animal rights message is really important. But with doing street activism and just having conversations with people, yeah, what was like how did you get over like the nervousness of doing it? Were you nervous at all?
I would say slightly initially, but then you just learn by doing. You learn by having more conversations, and when the answers are so quick, you can snap them out because you've obviously researched into the issue. Then it becomes more and more natural, and it gets easier in time, like most things.
Yeah, awesome. And if you could remember, do you want to talk about your first experience or first few cubes that you went to?
Yeah, initially it was for Anonymous for the Voiceless, Cube of Truth, because they had kind of set the standard when it came to street activism by demonstrating what happens to animals, and then hopefully people would stop on the side, the public would have a chat, and yeah, it went good. I was always fairly confident in talking to the people because a lot of the activists only wanted to hold the signs, and I was happy talking to people, and it grew from there.
Yeah, awesome. So I remember the first time I actually came to your event, the first time I started doing activism at the Make the Connection event down in Queen Street. Yeah, what happened since your first experience as just starting to get into the animal rights movement? What happened from then for you to become the organizer of animal rights activist events?
If I don't do it, then who's going to do it? Not many people want to put their hand up and be that person who's carrying the gear, who's going to be there on time, who's going to have the cards to give out to people. So if you don't do it, then who's going to do it, I would love for more people to get involved, and I hope that you do as a result of potentially watching this. But let's see, let's all do what we can.
Exactly. And as an extension of that, you've been vegan for a long time now. And how long have you actually been an animal rights activist in that space?
For the majority of that time too.
For the majority of that time.
I had a look on my social media on Instagram, and there's posts from over 5 years ago now.
Wow.
So it's been a fair amount of time. I wish that it didn't have to be this way. I would love it for more people to turn and change quicker. But
And obviously it's been a long time, so you've seen it change quite a lot because, like we said, we're in early stages of this. So yeah, what's your view on how the animal rights movement has evolved and grown over time since you became a part of it?
the only restaurant that we used to go to was Sunflower. It's still going, go Sunflower.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's so many more vegan restaurants and vegan eateries opening up, and it's so great to see. People say that there's not many places comparatively compared to non-vegan stuff, but at the same time it's grown massively in Auckland, around New Zealand, and especially worldwide, and it's so heartwarming.
Yeah, and yeah, I think it's a lot easier these days. We're in New Zealand, but especially places like the UK, it's almost a no-brainer to make those swaps out because of the price and the convenience and etc. But yeah, within the animal rights movement itself, how has that grown for you? Like, they've done marches and stuff like that. I've only been vegan less than a year still, so that is quite new to me. But how did it look about 5 years ago? Did you still have those kind of huge events and like even activism events going quite frequently?
I would say reasonably frequently, but certainly not at the pace that it's happening now. Now we're actually having conflicting, clashing dates of activism, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, people have precious weekend time, and there's not all the time in the world to be able to do it, but it's grown massively. The marches here, as you said, are happening frequently. There's so much going on, and it's really, really good.
Yeah, and do you have any advice for people who want to make a difference? Different ways to get into activism and different forms of activism. What would you say to those people just sitting on the fence about, thinking of speaking up for the animals or doing something for them?
Absolutely do it. It's nerve-wracking for sure. Jump on whatever it is social media platform it is, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anything, TikTok. Speak about it. People will watch it. You know, it's up to them whether they like what you're saying and how you're saying it. You just gotta try. If you don't try, then how would you ever know? And yeah, please do. Please speak up for the animals in any way you can, and for the other issues that veganism addresses.
Yeah, because that is something that was really good for me, because I did want to speak about other issues as well. But initially, if we solve the issue of animal rights, obviously by moving people to a plant-based diet predominantly, that's going to solve a lot of the issues that we have anyway. So yeah, the way I like to do it, instead of, because there's a lot of people in the vegan space and that who will talk about those other issues, but I like to just drive it home with the animal rights message, because even if you do that and get people to change that way, you're already solving those other issues. So I think that's really great. Yeah. By the way, you told me that Roxy, your dog, was plant-based. So how was that transitioning into that diet for her? Obviously, you probably had her before you opened up the page of veganism. So yeah, let's talk about that.
She's been, yeah, our second family dog. We had initially another dog. She passed away. We had a great time with her. And then, yeah, Roxy was not vegan. Well, I don't know if she is still essentially vegan, but she started to really slow down on our walks. She could barely even walk around the neighborhood. She's currently 11, so this was only about a year ago.
Yeah.
And she was struggling. You could see that she couldn't really jump into the car. When she once did, it was quite easy. So Mum took her to the vet. They got her on some medication, well, supposedly would help her. It didn't. She started peeing inside, and it didn't help. It would cost a fortune as well. So we thought, hey, maybe we'll just try and change her diet, as you know, many of the common chronic diseases that affect humans also affect animals. And the difference has been amazing. She now is thriving again.
Wow.
And I don't feed her meat. She stays here. Like this morning, she had lentils, oats, some broccoli, and some squash.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see that she's better. She's off the drugs now as well. As I said, the drugs didn't help. And yeah, I get that cats and some animals cannot be vegan, but dogs, as we've witnessed, yeah, can change as well.
Yeah. And like there's a lot of dogs who do get cancer and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I think one of the main causes of that, because obviously the meat that they're given isn't fit for human consumption. So it's, you know, just full of just nasty, horrible stuff, isn't it? Yeah. So with you being sober, how long has that been as well?
5.5 years almost now.
Yeah. And what brought that up? Did you have like problems with drinking before that?
I wouldn't say I had a problem like an addiction, but I certainly would drink far too much, as it is common in Kiwi culture.
Yeah.
People binge drink when they're in their teens, and yeah, I've certainly had a whole box of beers myself in a day, no worries. So, you know, it is essentially poisoning yourself, but to me it was very clear, and I'd like to thank my friend Shamiz in pushing me to let it go, because it was obvious that you can't mix fitness with alcohol, and one had to give, so I let go of the alcohol. Rather than try and look at it like giving up, I look at it like letting go of and not forcing my body to take on this unnecessary burden.
Yeah, and I think that's a really healthy way to look at it with things like that as well. I mean, even with animal products, it's not like we're giving it up, because if we had the knowledge in the first place, we wouldn't even consider it.
Exactly.
Most people don't consider eating dogs.
Yep.
And if you were to say like you're not going to eat dogs anymore, it'd be like, oh, do I really have to give it up?
Yep.
You know,
That's it.
it's more of letting go what you would never have consumed in the first place.
And on the subject,
Yeah.
and on the subject of giving it up, I often say to people, you know, it's not really giving up much. If we count the things out, you've got chicken, pork, beef, fish, eggs, milk, honey. Look, we haven't even got to 10 things.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 20,000 plus.
And we can
plants.
replace all of those things.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's next for you in terms of your athletic achievements? What have you got on the cards, and how has your recovery been?
Recovery has been absolutely amazing. It's just over a month gone, and I'm thrashing out intervals, running around the park. I'm training for another standard full marathon, so 42k. Yeah, feeling great.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, so you're training for the next one, are you? Yeah.
That's what's coming in middle of May, so it's not too far away. In terms of the big thing, watch this space is all I can say at the moment. There will be more. I've got plans.
Cool. And if people want to follow you on your journey for all those achievements, where can they follow you?
Instagram, YouTube, Facebook.
Yeah.
perhaps we can have the links in this video or something. Or,
Yeah,
and share it
definitely.
that way.
And what's your handle on those?
Kiwi Bigfoot. Kiwi and I've got big feet.
Awesome. All right. I've really enjoyed this interview with you, mate. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.